On today's show, our review of WRC 3 by Milestone. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Darren Ganji here with my good buddy,
Sean Cole.
And today we have our final look at WRC 3 by Milestone. And some of you may have already seen our first look, which was basically box cover, some first impressions, that kind of stuff. So no more first impressions, no need to go over the box cover. So we're gonna give you the whole enchilada right here.
And for those of you who didn't see that preview, check it out. We have a link to it here in our description, and you can check out that preview along with some of those extra videos with some extra footage of this fine game.
That's right. And first up, before we get into the review, we'd like to thank Milestone and Andy Pearson at P-Cube for hooking us up with these copies. And the copies that we're holding, we actually couldn't play.
No, I tried to use this one.
No, I tried to use that one. We tried to use these, and these are PAL. So those of you who live in Europe, you know what PAL is, and that's basically the format that you guys run on your DVDs, stuff like that. And we run NTSC here in the States. So we have a little contest, and any of you that want to enter, you have to go to our website, become a member of our site, and all you gotta do is respond, and we're gonna have a link in the description. Respond to the video that we have and say, I want to win the PAL copy. You have to say exactly that. I want to win the PAL copy. Then you will be entered into a contest, and 2 lucky winners will get, one will get the wrapped version
and one the not so wrapped version.
but not used. I mean, this is brand new. We put it in the tray and it didn't work because it's a PAL version. So
never been played.
So 2 of you are going to get to thank Milestone as well for these versions, but we did get to try it on the PS3 and the PC, what you're seeing here. And if you're interested and you live worldwide, you can run either version, the PS3. PS3 is a region-free, so it's a Blu-ray, and as far as I know, Blu-rays are region-free. And then PC is a download, so you can download it, about $40, and you're rallying. So that being said, here we are for our review.
Yeah, and this is actually the 3rd installment of WRC for Milestone. And many of you might already be familiar with them from their Superbike series or from Superstars V8, which is another title they're known for.
Yep. And a lot of the diehard sim snob WRC, and I gotta say, the WRC fans are probably in all of sim racing the hardest core.
Yeah.
Man, they hammered Milestone for the first 2 versions. They hammered Codemasters for dirt. So anything that is attempting to be close to, let me rephrase this. Anything that is a rally game or simulation and doesn't come close to Richard Burns' rally, then these sim snobs jump all over it.
And for those of you who are wondering why we keep bringing up Richard Burns' Rally, this is sort of the benchmark sim of the dirt racing genre.
Or maybe even a benchmark sim period.
It really is, especially when talking dirt. So it's hard for anybody to make any kind of a rally game without immediately being compared to that great title, incredible title.
Yep, and there's been a community that's been modding and upgrading Richard Burns Rally since 2004 is when it came out. You know, there's places like RSRBR. Anyway, we're getting off track here. We'll talk a little bit more about them later. We're here for WRC 3. Again, 3rd version in Milestone's licensing agreement, we can say, with the World Rally Championship, FIA World Rally Championship. So we're going to tell you what we think about it. Go over all the different categories that we used to have on our scale, our rating scale. And just like with F1 2012, we're really not gonna rate titles anymore. We're just gonna give you our opinion. We're gonna give you our opinion on all the different areas, graphics, physics, sounds, no pros and cons. We're just gonna tell you like it is in every one of those sections. And then we're gonna wrap it up with some final thoughts. And so, first thing we're gonna do is talk about the physics and see if it comes close to that benchmark that Richard Burns has set. And even the stock Richard Burns, without being modified, was incredible physics-wise. So what about WRC3? Where do they stand? You know, initially when the first two came out, I thought the physics seemed pretty good. Problem was that the input lag and dead zones were just so large that it was really hard to get a good feel, and the force feedback was kind of weak.
Right.
So, so yeah, I mean that's where the original two stand. This one, definitely a step in the right direction.
I agree, and it's really hard, like you mentioned, to talk about physics without bringing force feedback, because that's where you're going to feel the physics. But one thing I like about this game or sim is the sensation you get, especially under braking, but it's the weight transfer, and it's the importance of keeping the car balanced well to be able to rally race. And it does that well. If you stab the brake, you're just gonna go straight. You're gonna get no grip. You're gonna get no turn, and you're gonna be off the road, off the mountain, and who knows.
Exactly, and they've done a really good job of coding that balance, that weight transfer, where you can feel it coming into the corner, and that you know, we can talk about force feedback in the same subject because they're so directly related. And the force feedback's good. It's not great. I'd honestly like to feel a little bit more road. You know, we've talked about it in the past where the rubber meets the road, and you don't feel it as much as I'd like.
Right.
But it's there. You feel the weight transitions and stuff like that, which is key. Like Sean mentioned, the brakes locking up, and you know, you feel the wheel get light when the tires, you know, lose traction. So,
well, when we were talking about it, you brought it up. You were talking about how when you get into the corner, you've got the weight going the wrong way, and you got to do some little bit of dance work with the car to get it to set up for that next corner, and that's all physics.
Yep. The garage, as far as the physics goes, and the setup, very basic sliders, 4 different tabs to choose from: front, rear, body, and gear. And in each one of those tabs, you have like 4 or 5 different sliders that allow you to adjust different things: spring rates, anti-roll bars, gears. And it's just low to high or tall to short, you know, stuff like that. So, so really basic. Would have liked to seen. I'd like to see more. I would definitely like to see more. And since this is more of a simulation, and we're going to talk about sim versus arcade, I would have liked to have seen more setup options.
Now, speaking of more, still on the subject of physics, you got to try out the advanced physics from EC Sim Hardware.
I did, and actually more isn't the right term or word. Less, and when I say less, it's a lot less grip, a lot less lateral grip too, which on the tarmac feels really good. I think they're going the right direction on the other surfaces too, but it seems like you're still running like this tarmac tire on the gravel surfaces. It doesn't have enough grip when you go to those. And I got a feeling that, based on the files that you transfer, that it's just across the board.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to be able to really tweak per
scenario or situation.
Per surface, and per situation, exactly. So, but pretty good, you know. And they're only on version 0.50.
Right.
So looks like they got some work to do. Force feedback felt better and stronger with that mod too.
Right.
So, but you know what? I like the stock physics just for where they're at right now and across the board on all the surfaces. You know, you can feel the car, the weight transfer. You can slide it if you learn the handbrake. You can adjust the handbrake too.
Right.
Sensitive, or you know how it pulls. So you know, tweak the settings. It definitely makes a difference, and got a good feel to it.
Right. And now we've kind of gotten onto the subject already, talking about controllers. So you talked about what you can do with the e-brake or the handbrake sensitivity. But another thing is the overall controller support is there in this title. Across
the board, yeah, on all the platforms, PC, PS3, and the Xbox 360. Seems like all the major wheel manufacturers, Thrustmaster, Logitech, and Fanatec, all are supported. We mainly ran the T500 both on the PS3 and on the PC, and worked great. Man, you got to turn the slider way down on the force feedback intensity for the Thrustmaster to really, otherwise you're just, man, I after one stage, I felt like I went to the gym.
Right.
So you got to really turn that down, and you want to run about, on the PC I'm running about 360 degrees of rotation, otherwise it's just too sloppy.
Right.
PS3, you're locked into 180 degrees of rotation. Same adjustability sliders. Oh, by the way, tip, turn the dead zones off on everything before you get going, and makes a huge difference. I don't know why they default with dead zones. Maybe that's because of gamepad, for gamepads.
Well, and that's kind of weird because of the one bug we did find in the game, which...
Well, there's a few we found, but the one major bug.
Yeah, and this one involved the dead zone itself, so it's kind of odd that it would default to something that made it even a little worse, perhaps.
Yeah, and even turning those sliders down, there's still just a minor dead zone. Like, you can barely feel it. Do you agree?
Right. Yeah.
Now, on the PC, we tried running originally with our Club Sport pedals and T500 wheel, so 2 different peripherals. Mm-hmm. Accepted both of them. Matter of fact, I have 5 peripherals running on my rig, 2 button boxes, pedals, shifter, and the wheel. Recognized all of them, and I'm able to map the shifter for my handbrake.
Right.
Use the TH8RS in sequential mode.
Right.
So I pull on that for my handbrake, T500 wheel. Club Sport pedals have, on the gas and brake, more than a 50% dead zone.
So you can just sit there running with them both on the whole time.
Yeah. So you pretty much have to run that way, but they say they're looking into fixing it. We've given them some data to back that up. But on the PC, running with the pedals, T500 pedals plugged into the wheel, it worked fine.
Yeah.
So controller sport's there, and you can remap all of your functions. So every function that you can map in the game is remappable, so you don't have to use a bunch of default controller settings.
Right.
And adjust the force feedback. You can actually adjust the the throw. Mm-hmm. So you can add linearity or take some out.
Right.
So on the PS3, as a matter of fact, I took a lot out of the brake because it was just too sensitive.
Right.
Stock. So the PC seemed pretty good.
Yeah. So we've already talked about the core of any great sim, and that comes down to physics, force feedback, everything that you're going to feel about the game. But we also talked about other things like user interface, or we talk about it as UI. And this game, well, first thing I'm going to say about it is navigating with my wheel using the T500 was almost unbearable. So one thing you can't map is controls to be able to get through the menus decently.
Great point. Why did they not offer that option to be able to remap it so you could just use those types of controls? Yeah. Now on the PC, it says, and on the PS3 both, it says to use the gas and brake to navigate through the tabs in the garage screen. Well, on the PC, it doesn't work. I thought it was as part of the Club Sport pedal bug, and even with the pedals plugged in, that's still a bug. It doesn't work. So the workaround on the PC is to use the F5 and F6 keys to move around, and then I think the F2 and F3 keys do load and save.
Right.
So that's the workaround there. On the PS3, there's no bug, but it's clunky.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate using my pedals to navigate from a screen to screen. I mean, that's just, they need to do a little bit more work on the UI. And then on top of that,
yeah.
This Street Fighter stuff they got going. This is actually not as Street Fighter-ish as some of the stuff on the inside of the game. Man, very cartoony slides and just
slides. It's like there's no activity to it. There's no cool voice taking you through it. It's just
there's
simple.
A voice.
Oh, you're right.
There's the woman's voice.
Yeah,
and I like her voice, and she does tell you about every aspect of the game, which is cool.
As well as being the land of great drivers, the United Kingdom is also the home of the historic Wales Rally GB. The typically British climate means the route is always damp and slippery, and when it rains, it can become a real mud bath.
That is one part of the UI I do like.
Yeah.
I don't like how cheesy it looks, and just ka-chonk, ka-chonk, the noise that it makes going from screen to screen, and then the music in the UI, and we're going to talk about that in the sounds, is just not my cup of tea.
No, I'm with you there.
It was really annoying to me, honestly. And you can turn it off.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's a slider to turn off all the in-game music, and needless to say, we would turn that off driving. No driving music, but just in the UI screens, no bueno. And then the last thing on the UI, the load times.
Yeah.
Load times were horrendous, especially on the PS3, and I can kind of understand due to the longer stages. But man, I was looking at my watch a few times, waiting for some of those stages to pop up. PC depends on your hard drive. If you have a solid state drive, things should pop up pretty quick.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the shortfalls, the not while driving aspects of this game.
Yep. Next up, graphics, and graphics are really good, especially on the PC. Good anti-aliasing, textures, and for the most part, good sense of speed. One of the bummers, though, no triple screen support. And, you know, for rally, you know, it's almost a necessity.
Yeah.
Especially on the PC.
Yeah, well, you imagine you're doing these 180-degree switchbacks, and it's like you should be able to look to your left or to your right to see where you're going to go, and you do it more so in rally than any other form of racing, I think.
Yeah, supposedly the guys at EC Sim Hardware are going to come out with a patch that addresses, you know, the triple screens, I hope. Richard Burns Rally didn't originally come with triple screen support, so hopefully we'll see, or maybe Milestone can patch that. PS3, not as nice. Good frame rates on the PC.
Yeah.
Good frame rates on the PS3 too, but jaggy central, so there's lots of aliasing.
And even some of the color, it's like I didn't even get the color separation so well. So like I was doing cockpit view in the beginning, and I was having a lot of trouble even seeing the road in front of me. It just all kind of blended together.
Well, you're limited to just the windshield.
Yeah.
And so another tip is run from the hood cam or the bonnet view, whatever you want to call it. It makes a big difference in just being able to see the world better. And that cockpit view, it's locked, so you can't adjust the field of view.
Right.
Either on the PC or I'd like to see an adjustable field of view for in cockpit EC Sim Hardware.
Yeah.
Milestone, so yeah, go with the bonnet cam, and it just gives you a better sense of, you know, how the car is reacting too, I think.
Yeah. And another thing to point out about the PS3 version is it only is playing in 720, so that might be one of the reasons it's not looking as clean as the others.
Yeah, the only reason why, back to the cockpit view, that I would maybe consider running in it if I was using the gamepad and I want to see how the wheel is turning.
Well, and if we had triple screens, then it would be a must.
Right. Well, with an adjustable field of view. I still don't want to be looking at the interior of a cockpit versus out the windshield.
Right.
So that's going to wrap up the first half of the show, and we've got lots more to talk about with WRC 3. We've got sounds, multiplayer, AI, damage, a few other categories, and then we're going to wrap it up with some final thoughts when we come back.
Tamiya's extensive lineup of radio-controlled vehicles provides hobbyists with the joy of running exact replicas of their favorite car, tank, or off-road vehicle. Another attraction of these vehicles is their use of high-grade materials, such as nylon resin, carbon fiber, and polycarbonate. With precise mechanical systems, the maintenance and adjustment of the various components, as well as performance upgrading with optional parts, allows for truly competitive racing. For more information about Tamiya, visit us at www.tamiyausa.com.
Welcome back to our review of WRC 3 by Milestone, and we're going to get right back to the categories where we left off, and next up is sound. And sounds are adequate. I'm going to call them average even. One thing I'd tell you right off the bat, I love using a butt kicker, getting some kind of tactile feedback, and that requires a good, throaty, beefy bass sound, and it was a little lacking in that department. And especially when I consider it's a off-road racing game where I'd like to hear a lot of undercarriage noise, you know, coming up from the wheels, and that would activate the butt kicker, and that wasn't going on for me.
I agree. Yeah, more wind noise, road noise, like you were saying, definitely would have enhanced the game. Overall, they're pretty good, though. You can hear the tires breaking loose. The turbo whine on a couple of the cars is a little funky, but overall, like Sean said, they're adequate. They do the job, and they help. They're intuitive. They help tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Next up, multiplayer. Now, we had a blast with this multiplayer. This is a lot of fun, and one of the reasons is, first of all, everybody's a ghost. Up to 16 players can connect at one time, both PC, PS3, and the Xbox. And so everybody starts the stage at the same time, and you can turn the ghosts on or off on the fly too. You can map a button to turn them off, but it's really cool because nobody's running into each other.
Right.
In rally, that's the way it is. Everybody's staggered, and you're basically just racing against the clock.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're doing, and it's a lot of fun. Lots of different variety too that you can play into it.
Yeah, even though the theme of rally is checkpoint to checkpoint, you might even have sectors along the way, normally telling you where you stand against the competition. I love having that instant feedback. Well, especially we were running against each other and a few other people, but I could see where you were. And it was like I was racing against you, and I knew you were racing against me, but we couldn't hit each other.
Yep.
And that's actually completely different or new when it comes to sim racing.
And it's a lot different than just running against a ghost that you knew had been run. I mean, it's intense because you screw up once and you're done.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I don't like about the multiplayer is that you can set up a full rally championship and everything, and offline your damage carries into the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
Online, it doesn't. So if you
Right.
set up a 6-stage rally
Yeah.
and you totally tank the first one and really damage the car,
Yeah.
you start with a brand new car in the second stage.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to seen that damage carryover like they do in the other ones. So that was a little of a letdown there. But you can adjust the level of damage the cars are getting as far as setting up the server, which you're basically people are connecting into you. You can do private or open. Championship, which consists of 13 stages, a rally, which is 6 stages, or no, on the rally you can do as many stages up to 6. So I was doing 3-stage rally,
Right.
Or you can just do a single stage too, and you can do it where the game picks randomized stages, and it kind of just kept going to Acropolis for me, but I don't know. I only did a couple, but then. You can also do a voting thing.
Right.
So everybody votes on the next stage, which was kind of cool how that plays out.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. If you had like 10 guys in the room, for example, and 4 of them picked one and everyone else picked the other, that one track would get 4 choices, everything else would get 1, then it would randomly pick. So obviously the odds are higher where everybody voted.
Yep, and one of the things that was really cool too was we played this on the PS3 online, and a lot of times with console racers, especially one of the ones that aren't mainstream like a Gran Turismo or Forza, man, those online lobbies are pretty desolate. A lot of times, Sean and I have booted up a title that's only a couple weeks old, and we're like the only ones in the online room.
Yeah, I hit join and I go to your room.
Yeah, or we hit or I'm by myself doing a quick race, and it's like, sorry, no races to be found, and then my own race gets set up, but not with WRC, which was really cool, especially considering we raced at like prime US time.
Right.
Which a lot of times with a title like this that is more geared towards a European crowd, we'll boot it up, and there may be people around at good international or European times to us, but there was a lot. We filled a couple rallies with 16 people at prime US time. So lots of people out there racing it. And I'm not surprised. It's a lot of fun.
No, and some talented drivers too. So it wasn't just finding
Got
guys.
our butts kicked on some of those.
Yeah, there were some guys who just walked away. I mean, obviously they knew every inch of the track, but it shows you the love certain people have for this game. That's for sure.
And you know what? Let's just transition into stages, and that's the next subject we wanted to talk about. And to be fast and be able to compete with some of those guys that obviously know them, you need to really learn these stages.
Yeah.
Like, I kicked your guys' butts. Like, one of the rallies we hooked up was at a rally that I had just ran offline. And it was coincidence, too. I wasn't cherry picking. I wasn't, trying to be a ringer. I just got lucky, and I ran those stages. So I was familiar with some fast sections, and I was just smoking you guys. But I knew those sections, and every time I looked at my gap, it kept getting bigger and bigger. And towards the end of the, after about 5 stages in the, 5 sections in the rally, I'd just back it off and just chill. But the stages are tough, man.
Yeah.
And this is an area where WRC got hammered in the past for them being too wide and too short. And that's not the case anymore.
No, they definitely lengthened them. And I think they just got harder. So not only are they narrower, but they're difficult courses. And there are times where you just can't go blazing through at full speed. You're gonna have to listen to your co-pilot, because if you don't and you go off track, you're gonna mangle your car. You're gonna need to reset. I mean, it's gonna get ugly. So
speaking of co-pilots, I think they've done a good job of coding the co-pilot and him giving you the amount of information you need to get through that next corner.
Right.
Oh, and a little tip, you can adjust it. So your co-pilot either goes normal, which is the default setting, advanced, or delayed.
Right.
And I went for advanced a little bit. I thought that helped me a little bit.
Keep middle and jump 150. Let's try.
I was fine at normal, but a little. If you went with the delayed ones, you'd be on top of the corner before you finished talking about it, I think.
Yep.
So another thing we should talk about before we move on from tracks, though, is the nice diversity. We talked a lot
Surfaces?
about. Yeah, you got different surfaces and just the feeling. So when you go from one region to another, everything about it changes, and you get that feeling. So when you're in Spain, you know it.
I agree, and we may not know the accuracies of these different places, but now some of the early stages that I tried had a lot of hairpins, and that's one of my complaints. Maybe a few too many hairpins. And I'm thinking, man, I want to stretch my legs. Are there any stages where I get all the way into 6th gear? Yeah. It's Finland. Man, you haul some ass in Finland. First time I tried one of the Finland stages, I was on the rev limiter in 6th gear.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go a little taller in my gears.
On it for a long time too.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
It was awesome. Love that. And with jumps and really good diversity of terrain and just the areas, and I think they've done a good job in that.
Yeah, definitely. Another area that they've done a good job is in the car modeling. So you've got 3 different series going on here, with the WRC cars obviously being the top. And I mean, like the modeling is just beautiful. I mean, like even when you're looking through the rear view, the rear glass, you can see the spare tire.
Yep.
And I mean, the cars are beautiful. I love rally cars, so just looking at them for me is good, but really nicely done.
And diversity. They've got lots of different makes. I mean, just on this screen, you got a Citroen, you've got, what is that, the Mini, you've got the Ford Focus, and you got the VW. I think those are the main makes. But great diversity, and then even some old school stuff. You can't pick the old school yet to do, I think they're going to do some DLC, but to do a championship and stuff, but like in the Road to Glory mode, you could do that. So that was pretty cool. And speaking of the car's damage, and lots of it, you can damage a lot of different areas of the car. Unfortunately, it's mostly visual.
Yeah.
And the physical damage, that's another mod I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I'd like to see double the physical damage, so like a tire ripping off.
Yeah.
I want to be crippled.
Yeah.
I want the car to be crippled on a stage.
Yeah.
To where when it says the brakes are out, there's no brakes.
Yeah, yeah.
Or if I've just damaged the car too much, it overheats.
Yeah.
I want to see stuff like that we had in Richard Burns.
Well, and like I've crashed real cars before, and I know when you hit that right front corner, at some point that wheel is no longer going to be straight, and I really smashed the right front, well, both fronts. I really smashed these cars, and it's like you can't even knock the toe out. So it's still going to track straight and run pretty competitively, actually.
Another thing I'd like to see them add to the damage and just overall gameplay is I'd like to lose that flashback thing when you go too far off course. I'd rather an invisible barrier or just put some rocks up or something, just so you have an end of the world and the car gets damaged and you have to drive back to the course.
Right.
That should be the way it is. If you go off a cliff, rally and stage over.
Yeah.
No resets, no pass go. I mean, you're
Yeah.
done. I mean, and I think it's a little too forgiving.
And this is something I remember from the previous versions, that sometimes you make a mistake and you're going to go off. Well, just don't hit a tree. I mean, the quicker you can get out of bounds, the faster you're going to reset and be going again, versus if you hit a tree now, all of a sudden you do have to back up. So it actually can be used to your advantage, I think.
Yeah, and wrapping things up as far as our categories goes, artificial intelligence or computer cars or who you're racing against. And you're really not racing against anybody but times.
Right.
And man, these times are tough.
Yeah.
You really going back to the stages, you really need to, and I'm going to throw out a challenge. If anybody can master or can crank that AI bar all the way to intense or whatever it is, turn off all the driving aids, and go to a stage that you've never driven before, I'll bet you money you can't win it.
No, I don't think anybody can.
There's no way. I mean,
No.
even Gregor Hutu, some of the best sim racers in the world, I just don't see that happening. So they've made it difficult to beat the AI times out of the gate. Throwing the EC sim hardware physics
even harder.
even harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've turned it up even a notch higher. So yeah, it's the AI is tough.
Yeah, and to reiterate that challenge, that's not knowing the track, which is part of rally racing. I mean, the reason you have a co-driver is so that he can warn you of danger up ahead, because you don't know every corner and every apex like you would in road racing, you know? So this is, again, having that kind of familiarity perhaps that you would have as a rally driver, but not course knowledge in order to not beat those AI.
That's right. And last thing we're going to talk about before we get into our final thoughts is, I guess this can kind of transition into final thoughts. So, simulation, arcade, or right in that middle ground, simcade? What do you think, Sean?
Another one of those that fools you one way and then hits you with the other, I think. It drives like a sim, but it plays like an arcade. I don't know if I really declared a spot, though, there.
You didn't. That was very wishy-washy. I would say this is definitely leaning towards the simulation side. I'd honestly, that being said, I would have liked to have seen them just dump some of the arcade, you know. And what's cool is actually you can turn that off in the UI. Did you notice that? Or in the HUD?
Uh-huh.
You can turn off the stars and that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The bonus points. So you can turn that stuff off. And I would have liked to seen less of that and more focus on the hardcore, like turning off the flashbacks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're really, I think, these guys have really gone that direction and really made a statement that this is going to be more about real rally.
Yeah.
You know, even on the Road to Glory stuff, which I had a lot of fun with.
Oh, yeah.
I was expecting a lot of Dirt 3 style challenges.
Right.
No Gymkhana.
No.
It's
No.
rally.
Rally.
So let's continue on the final thoughts. Why don't
Okay.
you give some here?
For me, you know, we mentioned Richard Burns at the beginning of the show, and that's the sim or the off-road sim that everybody compares everything to. For me, it's more not so much comparing, but it was a long time ago since Richard Burns. And I've been waiting a long time for somebody to step up and give us something that deserved that kind of attention, that deserved modding from outside people like EC Sim Hardware or from the general community. And this game or sim might be good enough that it's sort of that new generation version. It needs some of that community support or extra stuff. But if it got it, this would rival that or could be our new Richard Burns. We're not there yet, though. I did have a blast playing it. I had more fun playing multiplayer against you and the other 15, 14 other people maybe than I did in the career mode. And it wasn't the racing the career mode, it was just sort of the lack of the UI to carry the career mode.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. The part of the career mode I liked was just the challenges of the stages. Mm-hmm. That's what made me wanting to keep playing. I would reset stages because I wanted to be able to get through and not be in the bottom, you know, 14th out of 16 guys, you know. So, you know, and some of my final takes on this is I'd really like to see Milestone embrace the community more. And, you know, with the Rally Sim folks from France, and then there's another group that we just mentioned on a This Week Inside Sim Racing, RBR World from Italy. I mean, that's in Milestone's backyard. Mm-hmm. Milestone, they're an Italian development team. And why not work with some hardcore Italian Rally Sim guys to take this to the next level? And I'd love to see, you know, I don't know if those hardcore Rally Sim and RBR World guys are reaching out to Milestone. Or even attempting. I would imagine a lot of them have it and are checking it out at least.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd love to see them, you know, Milestone embracing that community more. And you know, I see them posting at Facebook, but not really interacting with the, you know, with their people that want the most out of this. So I really like to see them embrace that more. And honestly, I'd like to see them take a year off and really master this platform. I think they've got a great base that they really just scratched the surface on.
Yeah.
You know, they're using for Superbike and this and their other title, but you know, and they have a motocross title that we've checked out too. But yeah, I'd like to see them really, and I know they can't because they're on the same path it seems that Codemasters is. One every year at the end of the year, they got to make that time to maintain the license.
But that limits how much they can do to this one when it comes to further patches or just allowing expansion of the game to occur.
Yep. So rev scale, we said we weren't gonna, and we said that we weren't gonna for F1 2012, but we'll kind of tell you where we think it could have scored based on, past reviews. And for a game, I'd say between a 6 and a 7. If you were a gamer looking at this title, between the dated feel to the UI, the music, and the clunkiness.
Right.
But now, if you're a hardcore guy that's looking for the next Richard Burns rally, I'd say it's getting close to an 8.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree there? Or?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that scoring.
So hopefully you've enjoyed our take of WRC 3, and if you want to see more about what we've done with it, check out our preview like we mentioned. Go to our website, InsideSimRacing.tv. Got lots of videos from our other channel, Team VVV, and everything that we've done with it. So anything else, Sean, before we go?
No, I'd like to get out there and do another rally, see if anybody's running right now.
I would too, man. It's a lot of fun. So thanks again, Milestone, for hooking us up with these copies, and Andy at P-Cube. And like to see a patch out soon. I'd like to see the the bugs addressed that we've encountered,
or EC Sim Hardware 1.0 instead of 0.50.
I want triple screen support. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's go, Milestone. I complained about that in version 1.
Yeah.
So I want to see this. Come on, let's get triple screen support. I can't imagine it's that much more to add. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.